Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Black Podcast. Excited about today. We have such a special guest. I know I always say that, but I'm really excited about watching the journey of our guests and finally get to speak to them and know what's the story behind this glory that we get to see. And so we have our special guest here. Thank you so much for accepting the invite. How are you?
Hey, how are you, Sherelle?
I'm doing awesome. Doing awesome. And uh, for joining us.
I'm getting
Make
a
sure
little
I
bit of feedback on, like,
you
your
hear
line is
that.
cutting a
Is
little
it
bit,
good?
and
Can you hear me
it's
now?
just cutting. Yes, that's better.
Okay, so I got all that situated. Well, thank you again for joining us on the Black Podcast. Before
No
we get
problem. I heard.
started, we know
I,
that
I'm so real quick. I'm sorry, I missed the part where you said how amazing I was. It kind of cut out on that. So I don't know if you want to repeat that again or.
okay.
I'm just joking. I'm kidding. I'm
Let me say
kidding.
it again. Let me say it again. So yes, you are very amazing, and I've enjoyed really watching your journey and just seeing you work. A lot of us we just get to see the pictures and the videos, but we never get an opportunity to hear someone's story, especially in our Black community. And so we want to make sure that we connect with our audience. The Black Podcast is about sharing those real stories because we never know who's in our circle of influence that needs to hear what we've gone through, if you've even gone through anything, right? I know that as I've been on my journey of speaking and getting into the schools, I've been in education for 17 years, but I remember hiding from my story, and not wanting to, um, you know, uh, let people in because we're always taught you don't tell people your business, and you just we just go through these little traumas or these little challenges, but you just move on and you learn to function in dysfunction, right? And so I just been so busy doing that in my life, and when I learned that my story was so valuable, and I wanted to share it with the world no matter how ugly it looked. And so I just thank you for always sharing your story and empowering people. Is just amazing, and it's a service. It's our way of giving back. Living our life on purpose, and I really truly believe you are doing that. And so, thank you for taking the time to be on the Black Podcast, and we're excited to learn more about you and what you're doing.
Oh, thank you. First of all, thank you so much for your kind words. I appreciate it. And thanks for going back, because my favorite topic is me. So that worked out perfectly. No, I'm serious. Thank you so much. Yeah, I mean, I think it's really important to tell like both sides of the story. I'm not going to give up all the tea, but
Yeah.
I do think it's important that people understand that it is not always easy. In fact, sometimes it's harder than it is easier. And people make it look easy, but it's not. It's like having kids. You know what I mean? Like, you sit in a restaurant and they're well behaved and you're like, gosh, I got great kids. And then you get home and it's like their beds are unmade and their kitchen's a mess. And, you're just like, wait, what? What's happening?
Yeah.
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 So I'm a
So
mess a good bit of the time, but
it's okay. Is it you're your own mess, and that's all that matters, right? But
I
so
guess.
we know that behind every glory is a story, and I want to know more about if we can just kind of go back a little bit from where you're from, and the dynamics of your family, and then we can lead on into what you're doing right now.
Okay. So you want me to start from the sharecropper days or
Just from like whatever you like to share. Where you from?
I was just kidding. That was a joke. You gotta laugh at my jokes,
I
Sherelle. This is
am laughing at
gonna
your jokes, but
work.
I want to make sure that you understand that I want to know everything about you, all that you want to share. So,
Okay.
know,
Um,
give it to me.
so how about I start from college?
Okay.
Does that work? Or I mean, I'm from Jacksonville, Florida. Duval. Yes, the Jags got in the Cowboys 2 weeks ago. I'm never gonna let that die. Um, and I was raised by a single mom,
Okay.
and she had two other girls, and she impressed upon us a couple of things. One, our Black heritage. mean, we grew up in the suburbs. I went to school where I was the only black in most of my classes. I was the only black cheerleader, you know. But my mom never ever let us forget that we were powerful, um, empowered, important, beautiful, strong black women. Period.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
We celebrated Kwanzaa along with Christmas. We had to watch Roots and read, stories from the African diaspora, and but we also had to memorize the 10 Amendments and half of the freaking Constitution every summer. I mean, so like my mom like played no games with us. Period.
Yeah.
Right. Um, and that's where we as I grew up with an old school black mom. I graduated from high school and went to college at the University of Florida, where I thought I was going to work in an advertising agency, and I realized how much advertising interns made coming out of college, and I was like, yeah, I'm not doing that. This is back in this
Right.
is back in 2013. So I'm just joking.
Like, no.
Yeah, I was like, this is not gonna work. And so I transitioned to sales. And really my whole career from that point, from the time I graduated from college to now, has been built on sales. Even I was 15 and I worked in an insurance agency, and I did cold calling as a 15-year-old, and I set appointments for the agent, right? Sales has really been everything I do. Has been the foundation of the businesses I started, the businesses in which I've worked, for other people. Everything is about sales. And I tell everybody, whether your title has salesperson or business development or sales director or sales anywhere in it, everybody is in sales. And the quicker you learn and understand that, then the better and probably more fruitful your life will be if you start to live it as a salesperson. Um, and so I worked for some big giants, Johnson and Johnson, which obviously we know is, the nation's leader in pharmaceuticals, or the
Mhm.
world, really. I worked for Adelphia Business Solutions, which at the time was the largest CLEC, or alternative phone company, you could call it. I worked for Ferguson Enterprises, which at the time, and I think is still the case, is the largest wholesale plumbing supplier in the world. So I got my training from literally the best and the largest companies, and I was always in sales. And but I always had a side hustle, right? Entrepreneurship was huge in my family. My mom was entrepreneurial. My dad, both sides of my parents are grandparents. My mom's father owned the first black mobile detailing company in Mobile, Alabama. My dad's dad was the first black um, vendor with J.C. Penney in Minnesota. So I mean, we have like this tradition of firsts and entrepreneurial stuff in our blood, and so it
Yeah.
makes sense that I would kind of just, um, you know, dive into that. So I always had this entrepreneurial spirit, and I knew at one point I'd be running my own company. I just didn't know what it looked like. And so
Yeah.
after I had my fourth child, after a really illustrious sales career in corporate America, um, I ventured out and I had my own consulting company. And then I got into magazine publishing and media, and the rest is history. After that, media has clearly become kind of my thing, I guess. And so
Yeah.
that's where I am now. Yeah.
Well, thank you for sharing that. I remember growing up, my father was, my parents had been married for 41 years, but I remember my father was in the army, and he's now retired. I think he did like 25, 26 years. But I remember my dad, putting on his uniform, going to work, and then getting off, and then out there fixing a car. And then I would ride with him. And I remember him, selling the car. And then we'll go to the auction. We'll buy it for $2,000. And then we're selling it for $49.95. And so when you grow up in that space, you just think that's like a way of life, right?
Mhm.
Because
Yeah.
that's all you know. And so I remember growing up and having conversations with people, and I got a scholarship to New Mexico State. So I went there, and when I went to college back in 2000, was it 2000? What 2000? I'm old. Okay, so yeah, when I was in college in 2000, um, the only majors that you heard from women about, either being like nurses, teachers, you didn't hear about being a boss, having your
Mm.
own business and being a woman, a leadership role or a CEO, you didn't hear about those roles. And so I remember graduating from college and I was like, you know what, I'm just going to coach. Like, that's all I'm going to do. And so they're like, well, you can teach. And I was like, oh, like, I don't want to teach, but I ended up getting trapped into it for 17 years. But I say all that to say that when you are sitting in a space like corporate America or at a job and you know that this is just not you, right? I'm sitting in here, I hear teachers stand up and they're like, let's celebrate, Miss Pickle, she's been teaching for 45 years. And I used to be like, why the hell would you be doing something for 45 years if it's not like your own, right? But I realized later on that having that entrepreneurial mindset was a gift. Not everybody thinks outside of working or clocking in, clocking out. And so, what
Mhm.
was that conversation for you growing up? Seeing your mom move and shake and do what she was doing, and seeing your dad and seeing people in your family all starting to have their own businesses. How did you know, like, okay, I'm going to go to corporate America, but this is also still not me. Like there's more to what I'm supposed to be doing. When did you know that? Like what was your aha moment in transitioning from corporate to doing your own thing?
Well, I guess watching it, I always figured, I always knew, I don't know how to tell you I knew. I just always knew that I'd be running my own something. I didn't know what it would be, Sherelle. You know what I
Hmm.
mean?
Hmm.
I tell the story now because I have my own talk show on TV, and people would say, "Did you imagine yourself doing this?" And I used to say no, but I recalled a memory about a year and a half ago where I actually do remember being in the sixth grade having a talk show, and it was me, Whitney Houston in the audience, and I was all three of those people. you know, um, and
Ah,
so, yeah, I literally was. It was like, all right, now welcome to the. I don't know the name of the show, but the Michelle show, Whitney Houston, and then Whitney Houston would come out and be like, "I believe the children are our future," and the audience was like,
yeah,
and it
you're
was like,
right.
yeah, and I wish that I could go because I would record it. I would record it.
Mm,
And I wish I could go find those tapes, right? Oh, I wish I could find the tapes. And so, I remember that, right?
yeah.
I remember when I was working as a teenager, making cold calls for the insurance agent. I remember thinking, man, am I going to have my own insurance agency, right? Um, I remember being in college, like doing all kinds of just like, one off stuff,
Hmm.
thinking, what is my business going to be? So I always knew I was going to be in business, but I didn't know, right? I graduated from college, I started working, I had a resume writing business. When I was in pharmaceutical sales, I thought that, we started a business for teaching salespeople how to get into pharmaceutical sales. So I was like, oh my
Hmm.
God, I'm going to build this business. It's going to be great. And that was a bust, right? I had an online bakery that I thought, oh my gosh, maybe I'll turn this into bricks and mortar and have bakeries all
Yeah.
around Atlanta.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? And so I really didn't know. I just knew I was going to be in business. And then when I started the consulting company and I had the medical consulting, and we grew that business and it was great. There's practices all around the southeast that have my stamp on them. You know what I mean? And I
Hmm.
thought this is going to be the business that is going to
Yeah.
blow us up. And then it turns out that it was this magazine that has kind of really, the media is what has taken off. But I can tell you this: when I was pregnant with my fourth child, my husband and we made the pact that somebody was always going to stay corporate
Mm,
and somebody was going to always go entrepreneurial.
right.
And for a long time, we thought he was going to be the one to be entrepreneurial and I'd be the one corporate because I really had a great career in sales. And, we were traveling all around the world on sales trips and making great money, thinking,
Yeah.
I can't believe I'm getting paid to do this. But when the fourth came and I was like, I don't think I can keep, I got four kids now. You know what I mean? Like I can't, even with a job as flexible as being in outside sales, right, and doing some sales training, it wasn't feasible. And I
Yeah.
felt like maybe I really felt like I need to just stay home and do something work from home. And I tried to be a stay-at-home mom for 6 months. And you talk about disaster. I
I
was
was about to
like,
say you don't look like you.
listen, I love my kids and I think I'm a pretty good mom, you know what I mean?
Right.
Um, but I was like, no, I'm not, this is not me.
Yeah.
And so that at that point, my husband and I made a conscious decision. Like, look, we've saved, we've kind of put ourselves in a good position. He was like, look, why don't you be the entrepreneur? Go out, build this company, and I'll, rise to the levels of C-suite, which he has.
Mm-hmm.
And that was kind of what it was. It was like, it really was just this kind of, I'm not going back to work full time.
Yeah.
Um, I got 4 kids at home. I got to do something. Like, I can't stay in this house. If I make one more trip to Trader Joe's and have some 13-inch person pushing around this baby cart, I'm going to hurt myself. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like,
Yeah.
and so that was kind of where we decided this is where the split happens. Is this answering your question?
It does. It
Yeah.
does. And I want to touch on just a couple of things because, number one, I remember having a conversation. I think I was on my way to a podcast. Someone was interviewing me for something, and they were saying, well, are you sure you're ready to, you talk about being a mother, but are you sure you want to give up these dreams of, and I was like, why do people keep saying that? It was like, it was always for a woman, like you had to choose,
Hmm.
in order to be a good mom, that's all you had to be doing. You couldn't have
Right.
your own business. You couldn't balance being a husband, I mean, a wife, a mother, and the boss. Like,
Yeah.
and so that was something that we always put into the mindset of a lot of women of, okay, how are you going to be able to be this and be that? We always had to choose. And so I love the fact that you have a partner who says, okay, let's go back to the drawing page.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so we tried that didn't work. Why don't you try and go do this? And for someone to say, okay, I'm good with taking the back seat so you can go and fulfill this, desire you have. A lot of people miss that, right? And that's just all about relationships and making sure that it complements and that it makes sense. And I think that a lot of times, especially us as entrepreneurs, we think that equally yoked means you got to have somebody who has their own business, or you have to have somebody who is doing the same things you're doing. But you really just have to have someone that believes in you enough to support you in whatever you do. Okay, hey, you can go corporate, I'll go, do the business. Okay, let's switch. You go and do, and a lot of people don't have that, right? Because we have
Right.
a lot of egos, and we have a lot of, well, I should be doing this and you should be doing that. And so
Right.
I really like that you share that. I want you to share more of that experience with us. And I also want you to speak on um, when you are deciding to go out there, and build these relationships, because that's what sales is really about, right? Relationships to me. For
Yeah.
people like you, a lot of times I talk about the why, and the why is always what sells, our athletes, our young men to doing why they do the things that they're doing. That's what they're selling. That's what we're selling them on, the athletics, right? And so when we talk about your why and you really said, okay, this is what I know I want to do on that journey, and I don't know if it's different because you're married, but on that journey as a woman going into the entrepreneurial space, the challenges that come with that. I don't know if we talk enough about, I don't know how many deals that I had to go and chase somebody down for my money, or made a bad investment, or got linked up with the wrong partner, or, those things happen all the time when you're trying to own your own business and you're building. Can you talk, was that any, like, did you experience any of those challenges? Were any of that your journey to going into the entrepreneurial space? Was anything about that challenging for you that you thought for a second, do I want to do this? Or has it always been pretty, like, okay, God is lined up for you how you wanted it to line up?
Yeah. Okay. So that's a loaded question. I'll go back to your first point about women and having to give something up to get like you can't have it all.
Right.
Um, so I have a brand that I created called Moms All In. and it's specifically for entrepreneurial women, um, or at least like-minded, right? You don't necessarily have to be an entrepreneur, but kind of entrepreneurially minded, to teach women that you can't do it all, but you can have it all. But you can't have it all at once. But you can probably have it all, right? Um, and that's what we call a mom's all in, right? And it's to this point, right? Like, you can work out every day. You can have as many kids as you want. You can have a successful, um, marriage, or union, or whatever it is you got.
Mhm.
You can have great friends that you can go and hang out, and you can take girls trips. You can live your passion. If you want to race triathlons like I do, you could do that. Um, you can cook every night, and you can bake, and you can like be a great friend and have great friends. Like, you can literally do all these things, because people would say, Michelle, how are you doing
Mhm.
this? Like, you got a baby at home, you got two in the, what, like, and you're jumping, doing backflips off the pool. Like, how, like, please help me understand how you're making this work.
Mhm. Mhm.
I'm like, you absolutely can do it, but it is a strategic play. It's not always easy. It takes partnership and collaboration, whether it's in your house or outside of your house. There are a
Mhm.
lot of things that have to match up. But I tell women, especially if you're a mom, there is no reason at all. Like, your kids should be the reason you do things, not the reason you don't.
Yeah, yeah.
It's the
Say
reason
it.
you fulfill. Huh?
Say that again.
Yeah, your kids should be the reason you do things. Your kids should be the reason you fulfill your dreams. Your kids should be the reason you build and create legacy, right? They
Mhm.
shouldn't be the hindrance for
Yeah,
that.
yeah,
Right. So I'll just say that. The other thing you mentioned was you wanted me to talk more about, um, kind of partnership, and making
yeah,
sure that you had people kind of on the, yeah, I think equally yoked to me, is more of like a mindset, a vision play. It's kind of like why people used to arrange marriages, right? In the olden days, it wasn't about, ooh, she's so pretty and she gives me butterflies, and ooh, because as soon as those butterflies are gone, you're like, yeah, I don't want to anymore.
yeah.
you
Gone.
know what I mean? The butterflies are gone. I'm so good. This
Right.
is, where do we sign? Um, but it was about bigger vision. It was about mindset. It was about legacy. So I think when the Bible talks about equally yoked, it means about stuff that you can't see
See.
or
Yeah,
feel,
yeah. Exactly.
right?
Right.
So yeah, I mean, you got to be aligned with somebody, and that's anything, right? Even with your kids, our kids are equally yoked to us, because everybody's on the same page. We all know what we're playing for in here,
Right.
right? When I say I got a podcast to get on at 6 o'clock, and I don't want to hear anybody
Yeah.
anywhere, I
Right.
don't want to hear a peep, that means we are equally yoked. Because
Yeah.
when, because if I do, we're gonna get unyoked. Right?
And get re-yoked with a belt.
You know. So I mean, that's, yeah. It's about being able to, we're all on the same page. We all have the same vision. We all know what we're playing for in the end. So when we come back and say, "Hey, this plan isn't working," how do we realign to get to the legacy play?
Yeah.
Um, you're right. So it's really just kind of that flexibility and amenability to change and all of those things. So I hope that kind of helps with that
Yeah,
point.
and
And
I
then
just
you're,
wanted to
oh,
talk
go
to you about like going into that journey of starting a business. There's always and I'm just speaking from my experience. I
yeah,
feel like I was constantly, $1,000 here, oh, that's gone. $1,000 here, oh, that's gone. And then it's
yeah.
like I started to second guess, like, okay, wait a minute, like,
What am I doing? Yeah.
are these bad
So
investments? Are these,
yeah,
I don't see the fruits of my labor yet, So just talk about that journey.
yeah. So let me give you a story. When we decided that, I was going to exit corporate, at the time I was working for Johnson and Johnson, but I was working as like an inside position, and it was like 20 hours a week, whatever. Um, and we decided, this is what we're going to do. Now, the challenge in this, Sherelle and Brian, thank you for showing up. We appreciate you coming. Glad. No, sorry to interrupt your day, Brian. You know.
Yeah, I just decided. Well, I guess I'll entertain you later.
I'm
I'm
just
so
joking.
blessed.
Brian, you figured out early I was a fool. Um, so we, my one of our refrigerators. So I had at the time we had kind of like the Sub-Zero setup. They weren't Sub-Zero, but like we had a refrigerator and a freezer, and the freezer was like making this crazy noise. It was like the freezer was about to go out.
Yeah.
Now this was a huge freezer, and it was worth, you know, um, it was going to cost a crap ton of money to get it fixed. It would almost make sense to just replace it.
Hmm.
At the time that we're attempting to decide, okay, you're going to leave, give up that six-figure, inside sales position. I'm
Hmm.
going to focus on that. And the refrigerator or the freezer was just like, "Arr." And it was all, we were like, is this a sign from God? Is this God saying, no, don't do it. Don't do it, But we were like, well, if that's the sign, what was the first sign that told us, yeah,
Mm. Mm.
right? 'Cause we already got the sign to leave,
Right.
right?
See the sign when it's telling us to get out of something.
Yeah, it's a wait. It's like, get out. Oh my gosh, there's ghosts in here. I mean, like, you know what I mean? Like,
Do
and
it.
so, but the point of the story is like when you make the decision and you
Mm.
know that's the decision, you stick with the decision because they're going to there's always going to be obstacles, there's always going to be challenges, especially when you decide you want to follow God's plan.
Yeah.
It's going to be automatic, and it doesn't mean like it's going to be overt.
Right.
Like you're going to hit walls, and to your point, you said, did everything line up? No, my freezer was literally on the fritz. It was about to burst with
Hmm.
$1,000 worth of food in it.
Hmm.
Right? That something was going on with one of the cars, you know, and we're
Hmm.
like, okay, you want to go and start. You want to do your consulting dream? Okay, that's cute. Okay, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
No, it didn't line up perfectly at all, but we stuck with the plan. And
Right.
here's what I want people to get, because we kind of did this, but we didn't do it perfectly. And I want people to really understand this before you delve out. And I'm not saying everybody has to do it this way, because I know people who haven't and it's worked for them, and that's great. But if you can, plan your exit,
Mm.
right?
Hmm.
So in a perfect world, you'd have 6 to 12 months of an emergency fund personally that, if you lost your job tomorrow, Sherelle or Brian, the world went down, you could live for 6 to 12 months and not be like, how am I going to eat?
Right.
You should do the same thing before you start a business if you can. And that's why planning is important. So you know what the business is, a business plan and a budget. So you know exactly how much it's going to cost to run that business for 6 to 12 months before you leave corporate, and
Mm.
save and build that money up so you have operating expenses for 6 to 12 months, because nobody's probably going to buy your product really that's going to be sustainable enough for 18 to 24 months,
Yeah.
right? So if you can get a 6 to 12 month operating fund for your business before you ever exit corporate, but also have a 6 to 12 month emergency fund personally, because not you got two businesses to run when you leave corporate. You got to run your personal business, your house, and you got to run your new business. See, these are things they won't tell you,
Hmm.
because you'll think, oh, I got money to run the business, right? But how are you going to eat at home,
Right.
right?
Right.
In a perfect world, it would be great if you could do that. So, and then you have opening expenses. You have expenses that is going to cost you to open your business. Let Not even accounting what it's going to cost to run it every month. So I
Hmm.
tell people, like, plan that, because it's like no matter what happens, you will be good,
Yeah.
right? Um, so that helps thwart some of the challenges.
Hmm.
Bad business partners. I've been very blessed that I really haven't had any bad, and not business partners. I mean, like, I'm friends with my business partners. I just embarked on a new business with uh, a couple of different new businesses with a friend of mine, one of which we got this big panel coming up um, next month. And he's pretty new in business, right? But even with the new business, like, I mean, I've been pretty fortunate to have aligned myself with people with whom I'm equally yoked,
Mm-hmm.
right? The vision makes sense. The vision's the same. The accountability is the same.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't mean that it all lines up and we always agree. It doesn't mean that we don't get in fights. It doesn't mean that I'm like, you're a bad business partner. It doesn't mean that. It just means that at the end of the day, we strike all that and come back because we see the vision,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
So yeah, I mean, like yes, I mean, there's been times when I'm like, I don't know how I'm gonna pay my employees, like literally.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? No, I'm not getting paid this month. Mom, can we know? You know what I mean? No, we can't. No, we
No.
can't.
No.
Don't
Nope.
even like, yeah, like all of that happens, and it hurts, and it hurts. But I tell people again, and it sounds crazy, but I'd rather struggle or have been in the position to struggle and know for myself, like I'll know if I'm gonna lay myself off. If Johnson and Johnson decides to lay me off, I don't know until they make that phone call.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? At least I can see the writing on the wall in my own.
Yeah.
You know? Is this helping you? Are you? Is this answering your question?
Yeah, it is. It is. And I really like that you share, that you share that because, people are so quick to say, "Oh, I want to own my own business. Oh, I have 5, 6, 7, 8, 29 businesses." But they have there's no purpose behind it, right? They're not serving anybody. They're just saying that they have this and they have that. And people don't know the type of or understand the sacrifices that go into having your own business, right?
Yeah.
They just see the pictures and they say, dang, I want to be like, Michelle, man, she got it going on. I'm gonna do exactly what she's doing, and it's like
Until I see the post when Michelle is like zero sales for the month. This is
zero,
what
right?
happened. This is what my day was like.
Right, zero,
Yeah.
when it says zero. And I think that a lot of times, we're not real enough with people or helping them to. And that's what I love about what you do and empowering people to empower people because they need to know their own gift, their own journey, their own ride, right? It may not be meant for you to be, having your own business, like you said earlier. Maybe you can just be the CEO or the boss of the GM of your corporate America, job or whatever it is, but just being your best you. It doesn't have to be having your own business. And I think a lot of times we spend so much time um, trying to recreate something someone's already created, right? It's just like create your own stuff, write your own story, have your own testimony. And we don't talk about that enough, especially, in our Black community. We just see the results, the money, the cars, the trips. Oh man, she's going on another trip. Oh man, look at the car she's driving. Oh man, but they have no idea what goes into having that stuff, right? And
Yeah.
so relationships have always been one of my biggest thing. It's not about networking for me. It's not about trying to find that next deal, but it's always about how can I connect with this person? What gifts and talents does this person have? What gifts and talents do I have? Maybe we can make something work together? Maybe I can just support what you're doing. Maybe you can support what I'm doing. And just building real relationships. That's when we can have some more relevant businesses, especially in our Black community. We don't spend enough time building relationships. It's, oh, okay, he want to do something, I want to do something. Now we go into it and we have no idea about each other. We have there's no relationship being built. You're trying to build the relationship while you're in the business. Money starts getting all tied up because that's one thing that breaks up, especially Black businesses, is money. Somebody starts
Right.
cutting from the other person. And so we had to learn that when you're in a business, we don't need to both be doing the same thing. Right.
Yeah.
Okay. What are you good at? Okay. I'm good at this. Okay. Well, I'm good at this. And you stick and stay in your lane. And that's how you have successful businesses with other people. But it definitely starts with relationships. So, how important for you is having a relationship with the people that you're empowering? So, it's not just those that are working directly with you, but the ones that you are working with. How important is your relationships with them?
Oh, man, relationships are everything. And it's funny. Sometimes I debate this with people earlier, as a younger person. Um, Actually, one of my business partners, who's like one of my best friends, actually, he used to make fun of me all the time because he would be like, "Gosh, can we just go somewhere and you not talk to everybody?" You know, or why are you always keeping in touch with people? He's like, you don't need them anymore. You know what I mean? They do what they're here. You know what I mean? But I keep, what I mean? It's just always something I did, and he finally came back to me about 5 years ago, and he was like, you're right about this relationship thing, and I was like, listen, the Bible says if you argue with fools, you become a fool. And
Mm-hmm.
so I just stopped arguing with you, friend. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I mean, I give you a story. I tell the story often. I just actually told it. When I was in pharmaceuticals, no, I was in medical device sales. When I first moved to Atlanta, I called on a doctor in Oxford, Alabama. Actually, he was in Anniston. You know where Birmingham is?
Yes.
Okay, wait, because you're in Chicago, right?
I'm in Houston,
You're in
and
Houston, okay.
he's in Mississippi.
Right
Yes.
near Mississippi. Okay, so Anniston and Oxford are like these two little sister towns on your way from Atlanta to Birmingham. And so I called on this doctor, and I used to sell him medical devices, and we became friendly. I became friends with most of my doctor's clients always. And uh and so when I left medical devices, we kept in touch. And one of the things I would tell him is that I was like, yeah, I'm starting this, medical consulting company. It's just going to be around HR, blah, blah, blah. So he called me a couple of years later and was like, hey, are you still doing medical consulting? I want to leave my practice and open my own practice. And I want to talk to you about coming to set up my practice. He knew me
Hmm.
as a medical device rep, and we just stayed friendly, right?
Right.
Um, and so I was like, all right, cool. And so he hired me to set up his practice. This was 7 years ago. 7 years right now, 7 years ago to this day. He actually was in Atlanta traveling to go to the World Cup. And we had our media company. Now I'm in media. And he said, I'm going to be in Atlanta. And so I invited him to our company party last week. This is a guy I called on from in medical devices as a rep 10 years ago,
Mm-hmm.
who I set up his practice. His practice is 7 years old. And he's a family practice doctor. He's probably one of the most profitable family practice doctors in the game. And that is not, those words don't always go together.
Mm-hmm.
Family practice profitable. He started like three other new businesses, and we're still friends. And he's now seen me build like this media thing. And he
Yeah.
always says, you're the reason my business is doing so well. Like, you set up my practice. That's
Wow.
relationship. And he's like, look, he's starting a restaurant. And he's like, I might need you to come help me do some stuff. You know what I mean? But I have
Yeah.
like tons of those stories, like tons of them.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You
Well,
never know what you can do for somebody, and then you never know what they can do for you.
You.
that's so
Mm-hmm.
real. And just listening to you before I could even get on, just listening to your energy, listening to how you portray yourself, the comedic reliefs here and there. When you do that, it's easy to build relationships. It's easy for people to like you. And you know how they say it's not about what you know, but who you know these days.
Mhm,
If people like you, you're gonna get to know a whole lot of people. But then
mhm,
when those people see, you know what? Okay, it's about the who you know. So we got her at the table because we know her. But then to stay at that table, to maintain that relationship, to grow that relationship, it's the what you know. So you've
mhm.
been through it,
That's
learning
right.
so much across various different spaces, and
Yeah.
you exhibited competence in each of those spaces. So it's like I don't care what space she's in now, she's a killer. So she probably can help me in this space too. When you do that, more and more people are going to come your way. And also, you don't have to be your own advertiser. You don't have to be your own marketing. Like you got people speaking on your behalf, so business comes to you without you even recognizing it.
Mm.
My background is psychology, social workspace, but my niche is social entrepreneurship. So really helping build businesses that address
Yeah, I
social
saw
issues.
that.
So on a quarterly basis, I do a training with one of my business partners out of New York. So tomorrow and Saturday, we'll be doing our fourth quarter training to a group
Mm.
of entrepreneurs. And so much of what you were saying about just having a strategic method by which you transition through life, be it coming from corporate America, starting your own thing, dropping one business, like you said, saying, okay, this is when I'm going to lay myself off from my own business instead of being in a position to where, dang, what am I going to do since they laid
Right.
me off? It's
Yeah.
strategy. And so many people, and I've seen it happen more times than none, they see the result, they see the life that you're living, and they say, I want that. Monday, I'm going to go and fire my boss. And they have no money set aside. They have no plan. They have no idea what they're going to do. They just know I'm going to go be my own boss. And
Right.
so many people fall on their face in doing so. And one of the reasons is because they don't know how to build relationships. They don't have any specific area of competency. So they can't really go out and build any type of relate or reputation or brand around what it is that they want to put out. So I
Hmm.
just wanted to just kind of rewind a little bit and give you your flowers, so to say, as far as like being who you are and like coming real, coming authentic, cracking your jokes here and there, and just letting people know it's not as easy as it may look. So many
Mm.
people see the results and they think I'm gonna jump right in and I'm gonna look like that. My life is gonna look like that. Trust me, my kids have seen and experienced recently. Nope, we're not getting all this and all that for Christmas this year. Nope, you're not getting that $1,000 item for your birthday this year.
Yeah.
We're gonna save. You're gonna put this much money, this amount of money in that investment account. Once it reaches this amount, we might get some of it out. Then we'll go do something over here. But teaching them that life isn't, if you want it to be what you want it to be, you have to be willing to sacrifice the things in the temporary. If you're serious, you only have to sacrifice it temporarily, and
Mm.
then you can get to where you can live that life that you want to live. And I'm sure you love the fact that you can probably go to your kids' school events almost anytime you want to and not have to ask for permission to get off,
Yeah.
not have to have that boss saying that, no, well, you got to be back at such and such time. My daughter knows, like, the only time daddy is not going to be at one of your events is if I'm flying out of town somewhere and I'm doing an event. That's the only time. So being able to say, okay, I'm going to lay myself off instead of having to worry when they're going to lay you off,
Right.
it's a beautiful feeling.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I appreciate that. Thank you for saying all that, Brian.
Yeah, I mean, you've been exhibiting it, and I just like to go back over things like that because, especially in the Black community, like you want it, you see it, you want it, and especially in today's day, the social media day, like instant gratification. I want it now. If it don't happen now, then I'm off to something else. And I always tell people, it's not the something that you're doing, it's you. Until you become a different version of who you need to be successful, it doesn't matter what company you partner with. It's always going to fall back into your lap. You're not willing to do
You're
what
the
it takes.
constant. You
Yeah,
are the constant. Yeah.
exactly. So always that common denominator. And from what I see, you're not an excuse maker. If it needs to happen, you figure out a way how to make it happen. And your track record has been able to prove that.
Well, thank you. Ask my staff; they'll say she makes excuses. My CFO is. I got plenty of excuses for him.
So, like in your space right now, the things that you're doing right now, what is like your main? Do you have like something that you're mainly focusing on, like your target, or are you balancing a lot of? I know you said you have a couple of other projects that you have that you're going to be starting up for the new year.
Yeah.
You know, when you're having these multiple businesses, can you explain like how do you make sure that you're giving, you know, the right amount of attention to each thing that you're doing, right? Because is it
Well, yeah,
possible to give
yeah.
five
It's
businesses 100%? You know, like what does that look like for you? How do you make sure that you're balancing, you know, all of the various businesses that you have?
yeah. No, I'm awful at it. I have ADD, I'm like squirrel, you know. And so because of that, I have to be held accountable and I have to be very intentional. So I tell people I really just have two businesses, right? But it looks like a lot. I have the media company, right, where we basically sell ads
Mm-hmm.
on mediums that we create and we own. And then I have my personal branding company, MTW Enterprises, and that's where I speak. You know, I host events, sit on panels, moderate. That's where the book is. If I'm doing brand ambassadorships, acting, all of that falls under that brand. And the worlds collide, right? The
Mm-hmm.
worlds collide. And sometimes it's a beautiful, beautiful marriage, and sometimes it's a shit show. And so I have to be very intentional because I will go off on like 15 different, you know, and somebody has got to like pull me back in. Sometimes it's my director of operations, sometimes it's my PR team, sometimes it's my manager, right? I have an agent and I have a talent manager. And sometimes my talent manager is like, hey, what are we doing? We selling the book this month? We selling like what are we doing? Right.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so I have a team of people around me that aren't afraid to yank my chain. And I tell people that all the time, like, I don't need you to tell me I'm pretty. I got that down. Give me the ugly.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because I'm not be always as honest with myself about that. The beautiful thing is I'm pretty self-aware, so I know my downfalls. I know I get distracted. And so I know I have to put plans in place. And a lot of times, I think you guys follow me on socials, you can see what my focus is by what I'm posting.
Mm-hmm.
And that's because, like, if people pay attention, they'll be like, okay, Michelle is focused in on selling ads this month. Like, this is what she's doing. This is what she's posting, right? Um, but it's again, everything is about the end game. Like, what do you want to see? And
Yeah.
that's how I focus in. So I know that my main focus right now is building this media company. Yes, I love acting and I'm getting tons of acting gigs. I mean, tons comparatively speaking, right?
Mm-hmm.
Paid gigs. Yeah. So I'm on set, I'm acting. Yes, I love hosting events. So if someone asks me to host, we've got to take, like, I'm ready. I can be there. But when people ask me what I do, I tell them I sell ads. I run a media company. It is
Mm-hmm.
my job to make sure that we are building and growing a company that sells ads on in a magazine, on a TV show, radio show, and on billboards and on my network, right? Like that's what we do. That's what I do.
Okay.
And so I have a very intentional focus on that. And that means, that's what I'm talking about, right? So
Mm-hmm.
it's that. Um, I'm starting to get hyper focused again on my book. I wrote the book last year, 2 years ago, which goes like this,
Mm-hmm.
right? You can always tell where my focus is because that's what I mean. Like by the grace of God, when I'm focused. To your point, Brian, I'm very focused. I'm hyper focused, and I'm better than 99.9% of people when I'm focused.
Mm-hmm.
And I can see instant results from that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because there are no excuses and it's all gas, no brakes. But when I'm not, you can see the scatter, right?
Mm-hmm.
So usually my internal team will see the scatter before you do. And they'll catch it
Mm-hmm.
before it
Mm-hmm.
gets out of the house and be like, Michelle, you're about to look scattered to the world.
Yeah.
So like, let's pull this in and see exactly, right? So that's the long answer. The short answer is intentional focus and strategic play because you cannot do everything at once and you have to start one plate spinning at once. You ever see the people, and they never start all the plates spinning at once. And we think we can start all these businesses and spin them all at once, like all at once. No, you get one plate spinning and you make sure that plate is spinning and it is not going to fall off. And then you go spin another plate. And that's really how we built the media company. I got the
Mm-hmm.
magazine, I built it, it was great, awesome. I got the radio show, I built it, it was great, awesome. We got billboards, we built it, it's great, awesome. And then I'm like, oh shoot, the magazine is that plate's starting to wobble, and I got to go back and right. But that's how you do it. It's an intentional focus, and you can't Please don't try to build 15 businesses at one time. They'll all fail, or they won't do as well as they could.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
Does
real.
that answer your question?
it does. It does. And I think that's, people need to know that just because, I've even talked to some, teens and grown folks, and they all say the same thing. Oh, I'm going to do this, that, this, and that. And it's like, well, how are you giving all those things, you know, the right amount of time and, time management, that stuff is real,
And money management too. Sure, I mean to cut you off, but let me add this too. A lot of times you have to dictate your focus like by the data,
Yeah,
like what makes you the most money.
right.
Right? Like if you're building a business and you have revenue, like let's talk brass tacks for a minute. Let's do some business 101 because I
Yeah.
have to do this too, right? Where is, you have to look at your pie. So I have four pieces to my pie: TV, radio, print, and billboards.
Mm-hmm.
So I have to look and see like where are my engines, right? And so
Right.
whatever makes me the most money, that's where you need to spend your time. Whatever is your biggest return on investment, that's where you're spending your time,
Right.
right? There's one thing. There's a book called that one thing, I think, or just one thing, the one
Yeah, the
thing,
one thing.
the one thing. And it's a fantastic book because it makes you focus on the one thing. There's one thing you can do every day. That one thing is probably going to generate you 80% more return than the 10 other things that might be easy to do, right?
Mhm.
There's one thing you can do this year that's going to grow your company from, a $450,000 company to a $500,000 company. There's one thing. There's one major thing, right?
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
so you spend your time where the biggest return is, right? I love radio. Radio is great, but radio is not what drives my company. So I'm not going to spend 80% of my day doing
Mhm.
radio shit. That's stupid.
Right.
Do you know what I'm saying?
Right.
Yeah,
But that's how we operate as entrepreneurs because you have to be data driven. Like, where's the data? Getting the numbers. If you don't have a budget, if you don't have analytics, if you don't have data, you can't run the business.
Right.
You can't manage what you don't measure.
that's facts.
So when did you get to, like, at what point on your journey did you realize, okay, I need a team, right? Because when we start talking about money, a lot of times it's like, well, I don't have money to go get a PR, or I don't have money to go get, somebody to operate my social media. Like, so while you're on this journey, like, when did you know, like, okay, in order for me to get to this next level, I have to have some people with me?
All right,
And
I'm going to answer
what does
that
that
question.
look like, because nowadays everybody who can possibly help you charges.
Money. Yeah, that's right.
Mm.
I'm going to answer that question in a story. When I used to set up practices, excuse me, we would set up practices in the budget and in the pro formas, we would build out for 1, 3, 5 years. And so when I would get a lease, secure a lease for a doctor, and if there was one doctor, if we knew that the plan was to have 3 doctors in 5 years, we would get space. And if we only needed 700 square feet, maybe we get 1,200 square feet or 1,500 square feet, and we'd only build out 700 square feet. And we have first right of refusal to adjoining areas because we knew that we were going to have to, so we wouldn't spend the money to build it out. And we wouldn't spend the money to get the space next door, but we knew when the space next door became available, we could get it before anybody else did. And we
Yeah.
also knew that we had all this unused space around us so that we could tap into as we began to formulate the plan. Right? So the
Right.
point is there's always a plan. So if you have a budget, remember when I said 6 to 12 months of operating expenses, and that operating expenses, you're going to plan. You might be able to do this 6 to 8 months by yourself. But the first person you might need to hire is what? How much is that person going to cost in
Mm-hmm.
the plan? The next person you might need to hire is this. How much person is that going to need cost, and you add that in your plan. It's all budgeting, and that's in your first 6 to 12 months. So you know that you won't have to run this business as a solopreneur for 12 months because you already have money set aside to build the people in that you need. There's
Yeah.
three people you should always have on your team before you hire anybody else: attorney, banker, and accountant.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
If you can't afford to have those three people on your team, you can't afford to be in business.
Mm.
Attorney, banker, CPA. You need to establish a relationship with somebody at the bank before you ever need their money. If you have an account at Chase, you better talk to Jonathan at Chase every time you go in there. Hey, Jonathan, I'm about to get my $5 out of my $10 at the account I have. Hey, Jonathan, can I get $13 out of the $20 I have? Hey, Jonathan, I got $5,000. Yeah, you're growing, Miss Willis. 3 years later, Jonathan, I need to get $150,000. I got $75,000 sitting in my account. How can I do it? Guess who's going to give me that money?
Jonathan. Mm-hmm.
But you walk in on day 365, never seen Jonathan asking for $150,000. Jonathan don't know you. You
Right.
got 13,000 overdrafts,
Right.
right? So it's all about planning, like knowing the end game. You got to know what the vision looks like, and you can plan. Those people should already be in your budget. So you shouldn't have, just like people say, I can't afford to advertise. You can't afford to advertise because advertising wasn't in your budget. If
Mm.
advertising was a line item in your budget, I don't care if it was $200 a month, you would be able to afford some type of advertising because you planned for it. And this isn't an indictment on anyone. I've made these mistakes. I did all of this wrong.
That's why you know.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
I can't afford to means I didn't plan for it.
Hmm.
Maybe you didn't think about it, and that's fair,
Right.
right? So, all of this is planning. Now, if you haven't done any planning, what I tell people, even if you have planned for it, I tell people not to bring people on almost until you're bursting at the seams. Because what happens is, and Brian, if you can stop me if I'm ever saying anything that's incorrect, because you work with entrepreneurs all day long. But we do this backwards. We open the store with no plan, no budget, and we hire three people for everybody to sit there and go like this.
Hmm.
And that's what we get a. Y'all, did y'all hear from a customer today? Is it? And in 6 months, you've run through your payroll,
Yeah.
and you can afford these people, but you didn't need them.
Hmm.
Like in the beginning, sometimes really all you need is you and one other person. Another story. When I used to set up practices, there was a doctor and maybe a practice administrator and one other person. And that one person could work the front and the back because we're not seeing 50 patients a day.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Now we're seeing some patients a day because we planned and we pre-marketed and pre-advertised. So where most doctors' offices might open and they might be seeing 1 to 2 patients a day, we always were seeing on our first day of open at least 10 patients a day because we had pre-marketed, pre-worked, we had the insurance company. So people were on our schedule when we opened the doors. And we planned and we knew what it was going to look like 3, 6, 9 months down the road. But it was
Mm-hmm.
always planned. It was never by happenstance. If anything, we were seeing too many people. Like, holy
Mm-hmm.
crap, Michelle, you did too good a job. Because we can't, we don't have that's when you say, all right, we got to bring somebody on for the back. Somebody's got to
It
handle
doesn't
back.
mean that the plan is going to take 5 days, 10 days, it may be 5 years, 10. So that's the thing about planning is a process as well,
Yeah.
and it's the process that, we don't speak on enough. When you go into these, you're on a panel or you're going in front of these audience and talk about being an entrepreneur, they want you to say, your business is going to make this much money, it's going to happen like this, three
Yeah.
easy steps, and so when you get on there and you're talking about, oh, there's going to be trial, or there's going to be, oh man, you're going to lose money, and there's going to be bad relationships that are built, and they're like, oh, maybe I don't want to be in business. That's easily turn someone off by telling them the truth
Yeah.
of, a journey. So you have to really be intentional, like you're
Yes.
saying, So
And there's a lot of good. I mean, I don't want to make it seem like, I mean, it's just if you it's there's a lot less that can go wrong if you plan for it. Because stuff is gonna like like shit is going to hit the fan. Period.
period. Yeah.
Like you can plan all day long and it's still gonna be like, oh my gosh, like how did that happen?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It's still gonna be that way, but and there's a lot, there's beautiful things to it, but I mean, I just think, it's not, it's a roller coaster ride.
Yeah.
And it's funny, I used to think it was just me, like as an entrepreneur, you'd think like, oh my gosh, is it just me? Like, now how many times did you have to transfer money out of your savings account into the
Until you look at back then, you
like what was
say,
you're thinking like, is it just me? I remember when I first started business, I'm like, wait, this can't be right because y'all all got it figured out. And they're like,
yeah.
what? You only had to transfer 3 times this month? Oh, you're doing good, girl. It's like,
Yeah.
I mean,
Gotta flip
it's
around.
what it is. Yeah. Yeah.
It's
Yeah,
definitely
and when we say the plan, that's one of the things that we reiterate with the entrepreneurs that we train is it's an ongoing thing. Every single quarter, at least, you need to revisit that business
That's
plan.
right.
You need to revisit those financial projections. Like,
That's right.
what has changed this quarter that was completely different last quarter? You got
That's
to
right.
address all of that because you may be going in one direction because in January that was popping, but then
Yeah.
come June it's going in a complete different direction. But if you don't
That's right.
revisit that business plan, you're going in the wrong direction. So
Yeah.
I'm glad that
Yeah.
you mentioned that because in your business plan, you're going to have your 3 to 6 month goals. You're going to have your 1 to 3 years, your 5 to 10 years, however you want to break it up. But you have
Hmm.
to have those goals lined up so you know where you're going. It's kind of like always, as cliche as it is, use the analogy of an airplane taking off. If it has no destination, how's it going to get to where it's supposed to go? How does it even know
Yeah.
where it's supposed to go?
That's
So
right.
you have to have that plan, that mission,
Yep.
that vision, that specific thing. Okay, by this number of months in this business, I need to hit this milestone, or I'm going to scratch and we got to reformulate. What do we got to do different? But if you don't have that plan in place, you're just going to be going and turning your wheels and spinning your wheels. You
Yeah.
see money coming in, but it's going right back out.
Right
And
back
it's not
out.
becoming
Yeah.
profitable.
they say
But
Yeah.
that song
it's,
cash in, cash out.
yeah,
Uh,
it's because
But
money is
the
moving.
the end game is always there. And I tell people to reverse engineer. Like I start with the end in mind and just about everything. I mean, like everything. And I'm not a black belt. I don't have not a project management guru. Um, but I mean, even when we plan events, right? I mean, my team knows we start with the date. Like, what is the date? The date is January 21st. All right. So what has to happen by January 14th? All right. What has to
Mhm,
happen by January 7th? Okay. What has to
mhm,
happen? And we just back ourselves up to the date
mhm,
and we already
Exactly.
have the timeline. So, we start with the end to go backward to go
mhm,
forward.
Hmm.
mhm, mhm.
Yeah. It really works. I mean, it
And
works.
it does work. That does work. And I've applied even in my entrepreneurial mindset, I applied it when I was a coach. And I remember telling these girls, hey, you're gonna make it to state this year. They're like, we never made the state. Well, because I plan my season from where I want us to be. So if I know that I want you to be your fastest in May, what do I need to do in the months prior to make sure that in May
That's
you're
right.
at your fastest? And
That's
so
right.
when I'm doing these things, people are like, oh wow, how were you able to do that? Because I plan.
That's
It's a
right.
plan, and I know there's a process. So when the girls wanted to getting starting blocks in January, I used to tell them, we're not worrying about winning a race and being fast right now in January. We need to be fast in May. And so they didn't understand that, but it was a process. Hey, we're going to run a certain time. If you run 25 second, 25.5 in January, then that means by February you need to be running 25.2 because I'm trying to get you to 23.9 in May. In order to get there, we got to, chop away at the time. And so they didn't understand that, but that's how I was always thinking. And that's how you're talking about building a business. It's not about, what do I need to do right now? First, you need to know where you're going or where you're at before you know where you're going. Okay, I know that I want this. I know that I want to have my own school. What are some of the things I need to do now? What are the relationships I need to build? Like you were saying, going to the bank, who's the person I need to know at the bank that's going to probably be the next person to write my check or to give me a credit, a line of credit or whatever it is. You talked about earlier about it being God's plan, or making sure that you're spiritually sounded. And for me, that was always a big part. And I think that I was watching TD Jakes the other day, and he was like, every business plan is not God's business plan, right? He was like, people start praying like, God bless this plan, but it's like, is that the plan that he had for you? Are you serving people? Stop asking God to plan to bless the stuff that you made.
Right.
And so I remember just reading how your gifts will make room for you, and I had to keep telling myself that is why I can't have athletics. Why can't I mix athletics and education? Well, you can. You may have to be the person to combine it, or you may have to be the person to create it. And through you continuing to stay the course and being obedient, right? Because I believe that our harvest and our lives, the labor, fruits of our labor comes from serving other people. Anytime you're pouring and sowing a seed, you're sowing a seed into your own life. And so
That's right.
little things that you are telling people that you think, oh yeah, you should do this. It may be something simple to you, but to them, that seed that you sowed into their lives, not only they're going to prosper, but it's going to make full circle with you, because someone's now going to sow into your seed or sow into what you're doing, the purpose and plan in your life. And so how important is it for you to continue to serve and empower people, even in the times that you feel like, man, I'm tired, right? I don't see the fruits of my labor right now, or I'm still in the process, I'm still in the grind, I'm still in the hustle. How do you continue to sow in those times, in those spaces?
Oh man, you've heard it before. Give what you want to receive. You want more time? Give more time. You want more
Mm,
money? Give more money. You
mm.
want more clothes? Give more clothes to Goodwill. And more shall be added to you, my friend. No,
Yeah.
I'm um, yeah, I think you give even more when you don't have a lot to give.
Mm,
Um, and it's been, let me tell you something. I tell people 2022 has been the best and worst year of my life, literally. Right. I mean, I could give you several examples, but giving to me is the foundation of everything. And sometimes, you give too much. Sometimes you give at a fault, right? Or I guess that could be perceived, too much. What's that really mean? I guess sometimes you give without receiving back. And what I mean by that is like not giving to receive, but sometimes you give to people or to causes that you assume might do you the same, and they don't. And that's fine, right? It's kind of like when you give the crackhead on the street $5, you gave it to him. You can't, what he does with the money, you gave out of your heart, you were well intentioned. What people do from that point, you can't control, right? You don't give with the expectation that
mhm.
people are going to do what you want to do with whatever you gave them,
Right,
including give back to you,
right. But it
right?
will come back.
It will come back, but if it doesn't, you
Mhm.
give, like you give because if that's how, I mean, whatever I serve God, whatever people serve, universe, whatever.
Mhm.
But whatever you believe, whatever your reason is for serving, that's why you serve. And that's it. You don't serve thinking it's going to come back.
Mm.
You just do it because it feels good to
Yeah,
you. And you serve at the level that feels good for
yeah,
you. I tell people all the time, like, I like having money so I can give it away. I like people to come. I probably shouldn't say this out loud, but I like people to come and ask me for money so I can be like, yeah, here. You know what I mean? I love to be in organizations and at
that's good
fundraising
too.
events and them saying, hey, we need this. And we be like, yeah, I got that. You know what I mean? Like that feels amazing to me. I
Yeah,
love when my friends don't have rides and I'm like, look, I got you. Let me get, where you need to be. I love sending, you know, Instacarts to my friends that have tooth surgery or whatever. Like, I love that feeling. Like,
yeah.
yes, would I love for you to do it back? Absolutely. I'd love for you to, but that
Mhm.
ain't why I'm doing it.
Right.
You know
And
what I
the
mean?
give back may not look like what you gave.
It doesn't look like exactly what you gave. I might give you $100, but you
Right.
might give me your ear on a bad day,
Mhm. On a bad day. Yeah.
right? Because I
Right.
think we do that too. We think, okay, I'm going to give you $100. I'm going to get $100 back. And if I don't get that $100 back, you don't love me the same.
Right.
And that's not true,
It's not
right?
true.
I gave you $100, but I was running late for my interview and you called me in tears and I stopped and I took the call.
Mm-hmm.
That's
Mm-hmm.
worth more than that $100 that you could ever, right? You
Yeah.
understand what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah.
So, we have to be real careful when we give out of impurity. And I'm guilty. Again, listen, everything I'm saying, I have done. I am not perfect in this at all because we expect for people to treat us the way that we might treat them. And it doesn't, because they don't treat us exactly the same way, it doesn't mean they don't love the same. They just do things, they show their love differently. It's like the five love languages.
Mm-hmm.
Right? You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? You think your man doesn't love you because he's not buying you gifts, but he's like cleaning up the house. And you're like,
Yeah.
don't leave the house a mess. Can I just have the diamond earrings, please? That's how I know you love me.
House.
Right? He's like, I tell you I love you every day. I remember when my husband and I first started having kids, and I said something like we didn't you know, oh, when we were single, I was like, we used to like travel, we spent money doing all this, and we had this and that. We were doing like all these things, right? And then we
Mm-hmm.
got married and we had, we bought a house and had, cars. And I said to him one day, like, hey, like we used to do all this stuff and spend all this money on that. Like, where's all my cool stuff? And he would be like, it got converted to a house and the port. You got a nice fat truck, right? Like, he had to tell me, and I was like, oh,
Mm-hmm.
noted,
Yeah.
heard,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So I think, giving is very important to me. I serve on boards, I give my time, I give my money. I wish I had more money to give, and I will. But I just believe that giving is the crux of everything.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And we can give doing anything. You can give mentoring people. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? My employees, people work for me. I'm like, look, you need to get something out of this. How do I help you? What do you want to do?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like, what do I do? How can I help you? I know you're here to serve me, but how do I serve you?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, if you lead with what you can do for people, I mean, you'll
Yeah.
always have the best
The
people
money
around.
would come, the money would come, the people. And when you stay in alignment and you just continue to stay the course and run your race, you'll be in the grocery store and you're running to a person that does graphics and you're like, oh my God, I was looking for someone that does graphics. Like I
Yeah.
remember when I wrote my first book, that's what happened to me. So when I started to speak, people were like, can you give us, your story about how you wrote your book? And when like I didn't have to go through a whole lot because the lady that I met years prior to, she lives in Houston. I lived in El Paso. When I moved out to Houston, I reconnected with her, asked her, hey, do you remember me? You spoke at this event, you inspired me. We reconnected. She was like, I started telling her all the things I was, my journey and this and that. She was like, you need to write a book. I'm gonna help you. She helped me birth my first book front to back. So I didn't have to go through all of the changes of, making all these mistakes because she had
Yeah.
already made those. And so we have to continue to stay that course and remember, okay, what am I supposed to be doing? I'm not focused on what the business is. I'm focused on what can I do for this next person? How can I give back? So and I
Yeah.
thank you for continuing to be obedient, and continuing to sow those seeds into people, even when maybe they don't appreciate it, maybe they don't understand it, but I'm sure later on they come back and be like, Michelle, oh my God, I remember when you told me years ago about X, Y, Z, and you may think, damn, I don't remember telling you that, but that happens all the time. Like I told you that.
Yeah, I know. I'm like, wait, I said that.
Like, damn, that was good.
Are you sure? I'm like,
But
I should have written that down.
That's mine. Don't take it. But yeah, I really appreciate you, talking about that and just the balance. So where are you at right now? Like, what is your major projects that you have right now? Like where people can support you? I know you have a couple of events and the books. Tell us where they can find the books, what the books are
I'm,
about.
I'm so glad you asked. Let me pull up my list. No, I'm just joking. I mean, I do have a list, but it's not on my phone. It's right here. Okay. So the first thing I have coming up, well, first of all, because I sell ads, if I can help any entrepreneurs advertise their business, my platform is built on providing quality, affordable advertising for small businesses. We have a beautiful magazine here in Atlanta. We've got a TV show, radio show, billboards. I want to service small businesses. I service large businesses also. I mean, Amazon's a client, Coca-Cola United. I mean, we serve large businesses, but the goal is to make sure that small businesses can get their messages out to the audiences that can support them, right? So please hit me up. I'm at Michelle Taylor Willis on just about everything. If you need advertising or advertising help, let me know. So that's the first thing, because that is my main job. Remember, I said that, right?
The main
Okay.
job.
January. No. Before I do that, my publicist is going to kill me. My book, Raising Significance. Raising Significance is a book about empowering your children. You can get that on my website, author MichelleTaylorWillis.com. It's an MTW guide to raising independent, well-rounded, and confident kids. It's a 2-hour read at most. I mean, it's 76 pages, I think. But I write like I talk, so you can get through the book fairly easily. But it will, I think help just create these little beings that become their own people, right? I'm not a perfect parent. I'm not a psychologist, Brian. I'm not, I'm none of those things. I'm not a perfect parent. I'm none of that. But we have come up with a few things that I think really helps, just instill some qualities that will help you raise out of the box independent thinkers. Okay, January 21st. If anybody is watching or team replay, in effect, if you want to be an actor, if you are an actor right now and you need to book more gigs, then you want to be, and if you're in Atlanta, or we've got people flying in town actually for this event, then you want to be at the Leading Men of Film and Television, which is on January 21st. It's here in Atlanta. I've got 4 of Atlanta's and probably some of the nation's top working actors. I've got these guys are all leads on major TV shows, films, everything. Like you've seen a lot of the stuff they've been on. I'm going to be interviewing them, but we have red carpet. We'll have directors, casting directors, agents, talent managers, producers, writers, everybody in the house. If you want to be in the industry, this is the place you want to be. January 21st, 7 p.m. at Atlantucky Brewery, which actually is the brewery owned and founded by the Nappy Roots. Y'all know the Nappy Roots, the hip hop group?
Yeah.
So they founded this brewery here. They're hosting us at their brewery. They're going to be giving away free beer samples. It's going to be an amazing night.
Yeah.
So you can find the tickets on VIP Socio, which is a Black owned Eventbrite, basically. Yeah, VIP Socio. If you ever have an event, you can put your event there. But we also do have it on Eventbrite as well, just so we have it on both platforms. Those are I've got that's January 21st at 7 p.m. Red carpet opens at 7 p.m. Yeah. And that's gonna be a dope event. Like the feedback that we're getting on the Leading Men in Film and Television panel has been amazing. It's been really good. Yeah. So January 21st at Atlantucky here in Atlanta, and you can find the tickets on VIP Socio or Eventbrite. And if you're interested, if you follow me at Michelle Taylor Willis on just about everything, and DM me, I'll send you a coupon code and you get a discount. I'll be speaking for Nova Turient, which is a mental health organization here in Atlanta, on March 8th. I'll be on a panel for them. Um, I've got a play that I'm starring in May 10th through the 14th. I'll be playing the female lead, Lori. That's here in Atlanta. I got all kinds of stuff. But mostly buy ads, buy the book, come to the thing on the 21st. Yeah.
Yeah. Just trying to like, it's got a lot of things going on, girl. Next
No, I'm just saying, like,
thing we watch the TV, like, what? She was on that. Oh man, that show. It's just so amazing just to hear your story. And I just love how humble, how you're just doing your thing. And I love that. And then it's the truth. You live in your truth. And that's real dope. When you can live your full purpose in life. And, I truly believe you haven't even touched the surface of what you're going to be doing.
thank you. I
You know,
haven't. I think you're right. I know
mm-mm.
you're right. But thank
You
you for
have,
saying that. But yeah,
yeah,
we
you
just
have
getting started over here. I mean, I'm 32 and I'm just getting started.
That's it.
32. I remember when I was 32. You,
Okay, all
you
right.
young like Brian, you little babies.
I wish I was 32.
I got a couple clients in their mid 20s. They're like, "Oh my goodness, I'm getting old." I'm like, man, you
Oh
ain't
my
nowhere
God.
near
Are
old.
you serious? Like,
Please.
seriously?
30s is the best decade, I say. And then when I hit 40, I'm gonna say 40s is the best decade.
40 is
I'm
pretty
gonna,
dope.
I'm gonna say welcome.
40 is
Welcome.
pretty, 40's dope.
It
40's
is.
dope.
It is. And everybody used to always be like, "What? You're not supposed to ask a woman her age." I'm like, I'm proud of like, as long as I'm getting smarter, not making the same damn mistakes.
I know, right? Well, I
I'll
make the
be,
same
don't
mistakes.
tell
I'm not
nobody.
there
You
yet.
know. But
Yeah, I'm
thank you
not there
so
yet.
I mean, you're just absolutely amazing, and
Oh,
just
thank
seeing
you.
your videos and your pictures is nothing like hearing your voice and your story. So,
Aw.
thank you to the husband for letting us borrow you and all the kids, and now we can just all go out there. I'm like, look, I can have 4 babies, still run 4 businesses, and have a husband, and I can do it all because Michelle did it. So,
You can do it all. You can't do it all at once, but you can do it. You can do
thank
it.
you so much for that. You're it. You got it.
Well, I have a team of people around me to help me. I've been very, very fortunate. I don't do it by myself at all. I wouldn't even profess to say that. I've been very fortunate to have great people who believe in me and who stick with me. Um, I don't know why sometimes they do, but they do.
Look at
Yeah,
Sherelle. Look at how she's sitting. Just look at that swag. Like
I
she knows
know.
she's doing the dang thing.
She's like, she's looking at us like, so, like, what else? Because
No.
I'm like super important. I got a lot of shit going on. I give y'all an hour and 20 minutes of my
No,
time. What else do you guys need from me? I
but
am
but
the.
real talk though, like real talk,
Oh
you
my god.
exude that confidence that it takes to be successful. And if you don't, like one of my partners will always say, you can't sell a dream looking like a nightmare.
Mm.
If you want people to buy into you, you need to look the part. And you doing
Mhm.
your thing. You doing your thing, sister.
Wow. That's dope. Thank you. Man, thank
Yeah,
you. That's dope.
success looks good on you. Looks
I
good on
love that. Look how I wish I had that on video. Oh, we do have that on video. I'm gonna tell my team to come in here and screenshot. Look how she's sitting. I mean,
like the straight like the boss. Okay, she's like, what else y'all got for me? What else? What's next? What's the next
oh
question?
my gosh, you guys are hilarious. Thank you so much for
Thank
your time.
you so
I
much.
appreciate it. Thank you for the kind words. And let me know if I can do anything for you, for your audience. If we could do some special
Run
deals for
some
your
names.
entrepreneurs.
Mhm.
Yeah, I can. Yeah, I'm running between a 12 and 14%.
You're gonna have everybody DMing you about some money. They're gonna be like, "I heard you was giving out money. I've been
Listen, we
going."
just finished Christmas. I just partnered with the Sheldon Williams Foundation and we gave away some money to some needy families. One of them was in Mississippi, I think, Brian. Yeah, one of them was in Mississippi. Yeah, so I'm tapped out. I'm tapped out until January. United Way is about to come with their hand out again. So no, but let me know if there's anything I can do for your audience. We work with entrepreneurs, so if you have people who need advertising, or please we can do some special deals or discounts or something for the Black podcast audience if you like.
Let's do it. Let's do it. We'll definitely make sure we reconnect. And like we said, it's about relationships. So you're definitely not. This is not going to be the last time you hear from us. And I don't want to have to show up at one of your events like, why you
Like, what's up? Like, why you not returning phone calls now? What's that?
like
What's happening? What's up,
relationship?
Phil?
Now you just ignoring me. So thank you so much for coming on and spending your time, um, with us. It's been truly amazing.
Thank you so much. I appreciate the conversation. This is great. You guys have a good night, okay?
Thank you.
You too.
Thank you.
See you.
Absolutely amazing. I just really enjoyed hearing. I think that we don't hear those stories enough about. It's a journey, it's a process, and like she said, you start spinning one, then you can start spinning the other, but you can't do it all at the same time.
Yeah.
And I just love that she's able to share her story and share the challenges and say, "Hey, I've had to transfer money from my savings to my checkings, back to my checkings, back to my savings back, and then you have nothing to transfer anywhere, right?" So we've all, been in those situations. I know I certainly have, and whether it's been bad investments or bad business deals, or you know just trying to make sure that I'm doing all these things, and then you do have that season where you start thinking, maybe I need to go back into checking the box of this or checking the box of that. But you have to stay the course and know that it is a process. And I love that she shared that story. And as a woman, to hear her and her husband, I don't know if you were there in the beginning or her in the beginning, but she spoke on about they knew they wanted to have like a business, but they also was making very good money in the corporate America, her and her husband. And so they decided, he said, okay, well, I'm going to take the entrepreneur route and you stay in corporate. That way both of us are not out there. But then he also came back to the table and said, you know what? I'll just stay in corporate and climb the highest ladder and you go fulfill the entrepreneurial side. And it's just amazing that it's okay to take the back seat sometime, right? We all don't have to be in the front seat driving. Some people can just let one person drive, other person ride, or we could take separate cars and get to the same destination when we need to get there. And you have to be okay with that. And it was really nice to know that she didn't give up, because people, women use that excuse. I would say excuse. I don't. Maybe it's not. I'm not a mother yet, but they'll use the excuse of you don't have kids, so you don't understand. But she was saying, you can't use your kids as an excuse,
That's your
but
motivation.
that should be your motivation to want to balance all those things and want to do all those things. And just like she said, everybody has a plan, the kids. So when they know that you're on a podcast, so they know that you have something, they go and they do something else, So I love the way she speaks on just how everything has to be in alignment. And it was amazing just to hear that. I mean, when she said she had 4 kids, I'm like, and you doing all this, you
Right?
know? So, and you got a husband that you have to attend to, because men are very needy.
Need a
And
bit.
so men are very needy, and I don't care. I know men are gonna be like, no, we're not. Yes, you are. They need, even if it's simple, just making something to eat, something to drink, having a conversation. Thank you so much, Stephen, for coming in, and happy New Year to you. And we are so glad. And make sure you share the Black podcast. Thank you so much for joining us. But I just love uh, the realness, you know, um, because everybody's not meant to have their own business. But that doesn't mean that you can't be great at what you're doing in a space that you're in. And she has so many books that teaches and gives you those little nuggets. But we need to tap more into connecting with people. Excuse me, with people who are in alignment mindset, right? They may not want their own business, but if they want to be the GM of their company, that's still someone who's like-minded, because they're motivated. Something's driving them. They know the importance of growth and process and progressing and celebrations and setbacks and challenges. That's the same mindset as somebody who wants to be a GM of a corporate, company, or someone who wants to own their own business. So I love that she shared that.
Oh yeah, definitely worth going back to have another listen. So off that note, guys, that's a wrap for 2022. We have, so this makes literally 2.5 years. August the 5th of 2020 is when we got started. Guys, we ain't stopping no time soon. Like Sherelle mentioned, keep sharing because we're going to keep bringing the people to you to share their story so that we can see the spectrum of greatness that we all have within us. Off that note, y'all go out, y'all stay safe, make good decisions, have fun, but make good decisions.
Yes.
And
Yes.
we'll be seeing
And
you guys.
don't set any goals in the New Year's that you do not plan on sticking with.
Set the goal today and start it tomorrow. Like, don't wait to the new year. Get
If
the
I
car,
hear
get
one
the
more
engine going.
person tell me something they're gonna do in the New Year, do it
Mm-mm.
right now.
Get the engine started now, so you don't have to jump in there, turn it on, and get on the road and then break down.
I know all y'all got new workout outfits for Christmas, and now you want to get in shape. Just start tomorrow. Start
That's it.
walking.
Point blank. Period. All right, guys.
Thank you for your support. Make sure you share. You can also find out more information at wearehsba.com. Find out more about what we're doing and how you can help. You may want to help with some money. We'll take that. If you want to help with your time, with your knowledge, with us coming out and supporting you at your events, or you coming out and supporting us, let's connect because that's what the Black podcast is about, but that's also what we're doing at HSBA is making sure that we give back to our young Black men within the community. And so we all have a gift and a talent that we can contribute to that. So check us out on wearehsba.com.
So until further ado, we shall see you guys on the flip side. Stay well. We want to see all of you guys when we come back. And just always remember, never granted tomorrow. So tell somebody you love them. All right, guys. Yeah, have a good one. See you next